Not a fan of growing.
Nice. We are live. Welcome back for another week of Growing with My Fellow Growers. I'm your host, Jack Greenstock, joined as always by an amazing panel. I'll pass it over first to Spartan Grown, who's toking on a little Newberry from DJ Short tonight.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, I just harvested my first. Well, I had two phenos. This is the better of the two, but yeah, I was just saying I didn't like to grow it so much, but it smokes good, so can't complain. But I'm Spartan Grown. You can find me on Instagram at Spartan Grown, all one word, no spaces, or you can shoot me an email at spartangrown@gmail.com for all of your cannabis growing lighting questions.
We are happy to have you back. And next up, we've got Matthew Gates.
Yeah, hey everyone, this is Matthew Gates on a new headset, so let me know how I sound. Maybe I should bring it a little bit closer to my mouth, maybe a little further. We will find out that together. Yeah, IPM, pest management. We'll see what we talk about today.
Going to be looking for some questions from the chat, but in the meantime, I'll pass it over to our last and certainly not least panelists who are currently with us, which is the American one.
Hello, Jack Panel and everyone in chat. I am the American One on the YouTube and the American One underscore with underscore Keens over on the IG. And yeah, it's always good to be here. I'm glad to make it tonight.
Happy to have you back as always. And yeah, just making sure to write my message over to the chat. Tag us with your questions, and we will answer as many of them as possible. IPM, grow, equipment, technology, whatever you want to talk about. We are here for that. Mostly cheap home grow related, ideally. But if you have other things that you're wondering about, we do get into the more esoteric kind of things at times and get into the weeds. But for the most part, hopefully keeping it on topic for the most part, because that's one of the things a lot of the listeners out there do appreciate about our show. I know there's a lot of cannabis podcasts, and many of them do drift into the weeds more often than we do. And I think we do a pretty good job staying on topic. Lots of cheers, like Weed Nerd DWC, SeedPerson1, great people on the chat. It seemed like there was a little bit of drama last week. I looked at it, and a few people were kind of going back and forth, and hopefully, they're able to get through that and resolve that issue. It was around,
Miss all the goods.
yeah, I missed it because during the live show, I'm like busy chatting. And then I went back and I watched the chat and I was like, oh man, it's like, yeah, I don't know. Somebody was getting mad about negativity. And it's unfortunate when like Seed Person One, who wasn't even involved, I think ended up dipping out. And speaking of which, Seed Person One, you're getting your wrench right now, buddy, because if you do see some, if you see some of that stuff and you feel like somebody's not acting, you don't need to ban them, but you can maybe give them a little timeout and say, hey, chill out for a
Time
little
out.
bit. Moderator, managing moderator, or standard moderator? You could go
Give him that.
managing. I trust you,
Hold
bro.
that wrench.
You got the power wrench, bro. You have the authority. Seed Person One. Cheers to you.
We had him on Let's Be Buds last week, so if you want to learn more about SeedPerson1, check it out. Let's Be Buds.
It was funny because yeah, I did see that shortly after our show, right? That was like Wednesday or something. The follow or a few days later.
Yep, exactly.
Good stuff. Well, I'm gonna have to go back and check that one out because I was actually busy when I saw the notification and I wasn't able to watch it live. So it's on my watch later list. But I always appreciate Seed Person One. I am an avid follower of their memes. I've mentioned this many times in the past. I like following their story, not just for the cannabis, but also the entertainment there. So cheers to you, Seed Person. And Buddy Kilowatt, another San Diego local, got Dirty the Grower and Caveman, Supreme Grape, XYZ Vector, lots of cool people, so many of which have come on the show in the past. If you want to be like XYZ Vector, who came on just a week or so ago to show off your grow, we're going to be sharing the Zoom link live about the midway mark in the show. So you can come on, show off your grow, or just ask a question live in person, or you don't even have to show your face. You can just come on like Tao and be in the background and be a voice. If you want to have a little more anonymity, if you're in one of those places, or just wherever. But yeah, with that said, make sure you drop some questions if you have any. And if not, hopefully everybody's doing well. And I'll pass it over to Tao and ask, are you able to indulge with us this evening? And if so, what are you toking on?
Yeah, sorry, it took me a second to find the mute button. Yeah, I'm toking on actually some jealousy flower that I got from a dispensary, but I do want to do a massive shout out to a whole bunch of people that have tided me over in my since I haven't been producing it myself. Seed Person One, Collective Mary Jane, um, Sacred Terra Gardens, Sacred Gardens, Brent Anderson, and LoneStarLarf also gifted me with he he did gifted SeedPerson1 as well. He posted it on IG a a T-shirt, and some beans from ATG Acres. So it's like a double whammy benefit for the community because he actually literally bought the stuff from ATG Acres and sent it out to me and Seed Person, and that's LoneStarLarf. So that's really cool. So it's just an awesome community, and I also have a sample of Stacy from someone, which is my blueberry by no wait, which is a time wreck by cheese by blueberry. Is that what that is? Man, it's yeah, I'm stoned.
It's
But
good, man. Yeah, good stuff.
that I've been saving because I just open it up and smell it, and it's from a person that I trust that I know it's legit. So I'm saving it for like when I can really enjoy it. But I open it up and smell it every so often. It's just like awesome. But yeah, that's what I'm hitting on today. And I have also been gifted RSO, and I've been uh thankfully blessed with all that shit and cookies from Collective Mary Jane. And yeah, I'm just in a good spot thanks to the help of everybody else. So thanks everyone. And yeah, that's what I'm smoking on and enjoying tonight.
It was cool. It looked like they may have even tie-dyed the shirt. I think ATG might have sold a white t-shirt, and I think they might have tie-dyed. I don't know if Aaron tie-dyed it or if they bought it and then tie-dyed it, but it looked like a cool hookup and gift there. Funny enough, that's actually going way back to the roots of Cheap Home Grow. That's where me and Brandon kind of met for the first time and hung out. We were tie-dyeing on 420 here at my place. God, probably 6 years ago or something now. It's just crazy to look back, and he was like just getting out, I think for manufacturing like BHO in California, which is crazy to think. He was in jail for cannabis production in some regard, and now he's traveling the world and doing it in all these different states. So really happy for him, even though in part that makes it so he's so busy that he can't be here every week. But I'm stoked to see him following his sort of master plan and getting his business grown out and providing a successful life for him and his family. And he's always been good to me and good to others in the community. I have nothing but great things to say about Brandon. So I'll always continue to shout out the Bokashi Earthworks products and website, and
And he's blowing up, man. He's all over the place. It's fucking awesome.
literally like everywhere I look, I see him, and I couldn't be happier. He works for it. There's a reason that he's everywhere. It's not because he sat on his couch and hung out. It's because he got off the couch and busted his ass, and he grinds every fucking day, all day, hard, and he's constantly educating himself, constantly, putting his self out there and trying new things and trying keeping what works and tossing the bad shit. So he's a great example of what you can do if you really apply yourself and kind of chase down your goals with extreme fervor like he has.
Yeah, a little behind the scenes when I was at the Living Soul Summit. Um, I remember there was at the hotel that most people went to in Pahrump. I remember there's a bar and everyone was there. A lot of people were there from the event. And I remember seeing him at the bar. Uh, I think he was nursing a nice whiskey and some like steak or some shit, of course. And um, he met with me. He met with me and a few other people who were having a little hangout. And the thing about Brandon is just as Jack says, he definitely like his boots are made for walking. He gets around. He goes and introduces himself, and he was also really happy about um his Ray-Bans, which have cameras in them. So you all should know about that too, by the way. If he like looks at you in a way and it's like, hey, why don't you stand there for a moment? He'll take your picture apparently. So yeah, Brandon definitely has that intrepid personality, which is so critical and necessary, but also exhausting. And maybe I get the impression sometimes lonely.
It is at times, I think, exhausting or potentially lonely when you're friendly with everybody, but maybe not forming as the deep of connections with each one of them. Some people have a very small group of very deep connections, and then some people have,
Well, just being busy, I think. I don't mean to
yeah,
say that Brandon has a sad life or anything like that, but
no,
yeah, kind of a lonely at the top type thing rather than or like lonely at the trying to get everywhere. You just don't have
right.
time
There's
for some of that. Yeah.
only so much travel your lady or kids can do with you around the country, and they've got school and other things like that going on, and so I'm sure he would like for to be with his people all the time, but a lot of it is just solo dolo, like going from one place to another and he's moved a significant amount. I mean, I've been in California since we started the show, and he's been from California to Oklahoma, and I think he's going to Chicago. He spent some time in Hawaii, fairly significant, like more than just like a little vacation. Like he was doing some work up there, and a lot of work in Chicago. I know he's been flying back and forth there. So happy to see, like I said, and hopefully we see him around here sometime soon because we always appreciate his input and feedback and updates on how things are going and growing for him because it's fascinating to see, what he's been able to do at scale, kind of for lack of a better term, really bootstrapping it and or working with people that are able to put him in a position to do what he loves and uh, have at least some sort of ownership role. So good to see and a great example for somebody out there who maybe think, oh, I need some industry connection or oh, I need to be a millionaire or zillionaire or whatever. Um, you can really just hustle, grind, and find your way into a position. And eventually, I think that
Yeah, into like Goldman Sachs or
springboards.
something, maybe.
But
Sorry.
no, I just think it's like there's a lot of opportunity out there that a lot of people think sometimes they're more limited than my dad used to always say, you're never out of options until you stop looking. And I think that there's something to that. If you
I think
keep
there's a lot to that. Yeah, I'm definitely the person who likes to like be like the cautious seldom err, but if you don't do anything, that's not going to work out either. So you got to find that balance, right?
right, and I believe in sort of dancing with the one that brung you. The things that work, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it, kind of things. Like there's lots of good, wise old sayings that can be applied to growing that really are profound, and it's easy to overthink, overdo. We talked about like moron gardening or whatever, loving your plants to death and things like that. But last week I should say, and there's a lot of ways to overthink and do the opposite of keeping it simple. So it's nice at times to be reminded of how simple it can be and what simple things can work. Or even in the complexities of it all, you don't have to understand the scope of what's going on. Just know like, oh, if I'm using microbes, they can help unlock things in the soil that give it to my plant. Like you don't need to know all the names of all the microbes and exactly the interaction that releases the phosphorus from this one or nitrogen from that one or whatever. But it's like that's the good stuff, and it makes my plants happy. So there's people that have pretty base level knowledge that are out there growing dank. They might not know exactly the ins and outs of what's making it happen, but they know what inputs to do. A lot of it's love, attention, and uh, really just learning to respond to your plants if you're seeing something that looks like it's off, or leaving them alone when they're actually doing just fine. Because as we talked about last week, there's a lot of times where we just throw stuff at it and it ends up spinning things out the wrong direction. When we could have just left it alone and let it ride, or test just one plant, not the whole shebang. Cheers to High on Homegrown and Stu Moo. Looks like we got 55 in the chat. I haven't seen many questions. Lots of cheers, lots of
We
what
don't
up, what
have a
ups.
question, but I would like to focus our attention on Mark Newman. Mark Newman
Yeah.
from Germany here saying that he's appreciated this show for years. It was in the top 0.01% of listeners last year, according to him. And yeah, I just asked him what he thought was his favorite aspect of the show, basically.
Shout
I'm
out to you,
hoping he
Mark.
says me, but we'll see.
I have a side question that I could Google, but I'd rather just bring it up here. Why not? So you guys know the term, what is it, amber waves of green? Well, I think
Amber
I
waves
see
of
some,
green, yeah.
yeah, amber waves of green growing out in the fields that I'm traveling through now that I'm doing time in Pennsylvania. If there's no
Yeah.
chlorophyll, how do the amber waves of green grow like a plant? Like,
Oh,
what's the,
because they're done.
oh, they were green at one point.
Yeah, and when the grain, in this case, I believe it's referring to like wheat.
Right.
Like wheat gets brown when it ripens.
Okay. There you go. That makes sense. I thought it was amber the whole time. I was like, how's it grow if it's amber?
It's
That's
All
funny
actually a
right.
really good point. I mean, like there are definitely like plants out there. Like I'm sure you've seen like trees and stuff with like black leaves, and you're like,
Right. The
how's that?
purple.
How's
Yeah.
that? How's that
I
happening?
walked past one today. There was a little
The green
bush.
is hidden though, right? That's what I understand with the purple, right?
That's right. It's like
Yeah.
anthocyanin kind of thing, where like you
Yeah.
just have this pigment that keeps it different color to
We
us.
we touched on a little bit last week, but like the whole glyphosate being sprayed on plants, wheat specifically, was like when we saw the rise of a lot of people becoming allergic to gluten, and they found out that if they sprayed glyphosate on wheat, that it would end up essentially like killing all the live plants while it stands. So that way they didn't have to harvest it essentially. So they could make it dry out without getting as much mold by spraying it with this
Yeah.
pesticide, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate because that's now
That's
sort of
not
the
even like what it
SOP
was meant
widespread.
for. You
No,
know, yeah,
not at
exactly. Like
all.
that, like not to say that like not trying to like get into the defend glyphosate corner, but like it's like but it's I think it really touches on a point where like people you make a technology and regardless of that, people might, use it for off-label activities, who knows, whatever. So
Yeah, I mean everybody who's seen Batman knows what the Joker could do with a pen, and everybody knows that's not the intended or pencil, whatever the magic trick.
yeah, or shatter a piece of glass and kill five dudes, like
Yeah,
don't give them a glass of water. Don't
it
do
could
it.
be a bong, it could be yeah, like a glass of water, whatever. There's so many innocuous things that could be dangerous in the wrong hands, and so yeah, it's interesting what initial intention versus actual application is with whether it's a pesticide or other products. But yeah, on the growing side of things, I think sometimes stuff like that happens in cannabis, like products get misused, misapplied, things that might be meant for cloning or veg or even early flower are used all the way up through harvest and even applied sometimes post harvest and trying to get rid of some of the bad things that can come about. So it's unfortunate that a lot of people misuse or are misinformed about some of the products that are available because not everything is usable on everything. The example I think everybody thinks of is Eagle 20, that myclobutanol, fine for certain crops apparently, but if it's on something that you're smoking, turns to hydrogen cyanide, which is poisonous at a certain level and will just kill you at a high enough ppm.
I just want to report back that Mark says that they enjoyed the feeling of community before it was legal. That's sort of I derived from that like there's that camaraderie feeling that's kind of still there perhaps or is similar. Yeah.
Feel like that it definitely is very much so in Michigan. There's at least circles that have that camaraderie. When I go to events and see the same faces and the same people come up and say hi, and there definitely is that in Michigan that I found. Maybe I can't speak for the whole world, but I think there's still hope for the legal market for there to be camaraderie like that, like a cannabis community.
I see it a little bit, Spartan, in California. The legal markets, you start to see like a lot of the sun-grown people um, hang together and they get to know each other and what genetics they're growing and respect for each other's like regions. Like, oh, we're both Humboldt, or both Mendo, or both even just NorCal sun-grown, where a lot of it's being eaten up now by Santa Cruz, Santa Barbara, and indoor even, or a mixed light and things like that. So there's so many different markets competing and prices ever lowering, but we do get a couple good questions. I'll start with Lone Star Larf. They said if you see what looked like spider mites in week 3 of flower, you manually pulled them off. Haven't seen anything since, parentheses, 2 days later. Would you still Dr. Zymes them at Cheap Home Grow? Hmm. I'll pass that one to Matthew as our IPM guy.
Yeah, I was just reading that question and then I got distracted. So could you repeat it again?
Yeah, so Lone Star Larf says if you saw what looked like spider mites in week 3 of flower and you manually pulled them off, and have not seen anything since it's been 2 days, would you still use Dr. Zymes on them?
So this is a good doctrinal question. This is a good doctrinal question because um this totally depends on how confident you are with your scouting, right? Because if you are sure, if you assume that you think that you're correct, that there's no spider mites, because you think you would, um, especially if you already identified them, you checked all your plants, you're probably not dealing with a ton of plants, right? So in that context, I would say that that's the whole point of scouting, to decide whether or not to go forward or not. Some people might say to apply regardless, but I would say no. I think that if you're in a situation where you're very sure that you didn't see anything, it's not unreasonable to not apply, especially because in the context of flower, generally speaking, I don't like to apply anything if possible. So um, if I was reasonably sure that I was correct, then I think that that's where you have to believe in yourself. If that's actually the case or not. What do you guys think about that?
I think that I'm in agreement with you in that my objective is to not to spray anything on my trichomes. That's my objective because I'm growing
Yeah,
trichomes. I'm not growing.
yeah,
Yes,
yep.
I'm growing cannabis, but I'm growing trichomes. That's what I'm growing. So
Because
I'm
it's
not
quality. By the way, am I
exactly. Yeah,
louder? Am I louder now?
You sound
yeah.
good. I think Spartan's mic's a little soft now.
I can't. Oh, that's because I'm sitting away from it. I'm sorry.
You're good.
But yeah. So I think that if I've looked and when I think there's bugs, I'm going to look more than when I don't think there's bugs, right? So knowing that I had them and I looked and I don't see any signs of it, I'm not going to spray something, even though in my mind I want to. I want to spray to make sure any eggs are sitting there and anything like that. But if I don't physically see any evidence, they're not that big of a deal at that point. I mean,
Not enough to
how
cause
many
damage.
outdoor plants get visits by bugs daily, and you still can grow some dank outside. So
For those who are just listening to us and can't see the chat or anything, um, Lone Star Larf mentioned that they did see some webbing on the, I assume on some sort of top or terminal end of the plant, so like the flower, right? Yeah, they didn't see anything on the underside of the leaves, but if you have webbing and if the webbing is on like the flower, oh yeah, because we're in flower, duh. So if there's webbing on the flower, um, spider mites like to concentrate uh, at the terminal ends when the population reaches this kind of point. So be careful because just make sure, because you might not see them underneath the web. They usually use the web as a way to more efficiently move and also communicate with like pheromones and stuff. So if you only looked at the leaves, that might introduce more ambiguity depending on the context. So that
If he
makes
really
me think about it
uh,
a little bit differently. Good context.
if he really wants to almost guarantee himself to get through the crop, I think one way that I've done it, and this I've told the story many times about my barber who had clones that he picked up from wherever, and he just kind of had them in veg and then threw them into flower, and then a few weeks later they had spider mites all over them. And he bought what I believe was Californicus, but it might have also been Swirsky. He bought a handful of whatever predator mites I saw on Matthew's IPM video, the pest primer for two-spotted spider mite. Tetranicus urticate or something like that in the technical term. But so I watched the video, I found those things, and I found which ones were best in his environment for where he was growing, which was like a tent outside of his house in Southern California. So it actually got fairly cool. So we needed one that would survive those kind of cooler temperatures, but also the nighttime or and daytime temperatures of lights on. So we basically just overwhelmed him, ordered like 2 or 3 times the population size needed for his whatever 4x3 or 4x2 tent or whatever it was. And they were able to remove the population. And instead of spraying, what he did when he saw any webbing, he would soak his skewers in. He didn't have Dr. Zymes, he had Lost Coast Plant Therapy, but he had these little barbecue kind of skewers, like bamboo stakes, but the real skinny ones that you'd use like on a barbecue. And he would just soak those in the Lost Coast Plant Therapy and then like go around and like remove the webbing with that. So if it got bumped by anything, it would be like a little bit of IPM, but it's not like covering the entire plant. And he's manually removing the whatever webbing was there to kind of knock down the population and remove some of it as he's introducing a shit ton of predators that went in and basically within a week ate everything that was there and then died off or evacuated the area. And he was able to make it through with like 3 out of 4 plants finished unnoticeably. Like you wouldn't have had any idea there was any damage. One plant kind of had a funky taste, but I don't know if that was due to the genetics or due to the infestation. So that is certainly a possibility on how to get through a situation like this if your budget allows for it and you're really, really dedicated to making this crop get to harvest. How did you have any thoughts on that one before we get going on to interesting question from JP from NB?
I'm with Spartan. I hate spraying my flowering plants with almost anything, but I would say if you're in a dry climate, you could spray them down with water, regular water, and knock them down a bit. Then introduce those beneficials, and if you have money, or if you can, I'd go with the beneficials. That's my favorite because, yeah, you don't have to spray them because, like, there was a point where I was doing neem oil, sprays at one point during my existence, and that would knock them down. But the plants, you got to spray them when they didn't want to get wet. So that was like just as bad as, in my mind, spraying them with something that was bad to begin with. But yeah, I don't like spraying them with any kind of pesticide if I don't have to. But I must say that even with the people saying that there's sulfur in the trichomes, if you're dunking your clones before you strike them, or whatever, however you want to vernacularly want to use, before you start making your cuts, that's going to be gone by the time you're not going to harvest those trichomes and be doing bubble hash or anything with. I don't think so anyway. And I think that's a good a good IPM to do is dunk them in that sulfur water when you're taking cuts as a first strike preventative. So yeah, that's what I think.
I generally agree that if you're just dunking, I think that when people get into trouble is where they spray all through veg and even early flower, like into the stretch, because a lot of that floral tissue ends up coming from the leaf that is there during the late veg, early flower
Yeah,
process.
a lot of people
However,
use the whole plant. Yeah,
some people, like I personally consume the leaf, the raw cannabis leaf. I'll pluck leaves and I eat it. There's benefit to that a lot of people I don't think consume it just because the taste is not great. But there's lots of additional benefits you can get from consuming raw cannabis. And the non-spray is something that's nice just for if you're going to consume it like that in that regard, or even like for people, a lot of people do really short veggies, like a week or just a couple days. As soon as it roots, they do like full tables, so they have enough plants. The plant count doesn't matter for them. They'll only veg the plant for a few inches or 6, 10 inches, whatever, and then they flip right to flower. So if you dunked that clone, that 10-inch clone or whatever, in sulfur, and then you flowered it and only gets to a foot tall, I think that some of that theoretically could still have sulfur on it by the end, but I don't think
yeah, I
that
suppose
makes
you're right.
the
Yeah,
sulfur dunk a ineffective solution for taking clones. It's all about understanding your cultivation setup and needs and desires for that IPM. So JP from MB asked, "Did you guys hear about the Grateful Dead? I think it's this Dead and Company now, but Kevin
I think
Jodrey.
it's Grateful Head.
Oh, Grateful Head. Oh shit, you're right. I'm not a good reader apparently on live. Fuck it, we'll do it live. Kevin Jodrey, Skunk VA, Dutch Blooms are trying to make a NL genetic library that has been collected and stubbed and will be available.
yeah. They did a show on I guess FCP. They're gonna tissue culture and genetically, I mean, cryogenetically, I forget the word, but they're gonna freeze the shit, and then they'll be able to mail it like from America to Germany if they want to start using it again without worrying about, you know, anything. I guess is what they're claiming.
What does stubbed mean? A genetic
No, I'm
library
not
that has
sure.
been collected and stubbed. Oh, what that
I
Do
means.
they
only
mean
caught
marked?
part of that.
I'm actually not sure either.
Oh, marked.
Well, I know that I'm pretty sure.
So they're basically making their collective. Is it like a nursery? Because I know that's what Kevin has, is a big nursery. So are
Yeah,
they
they're
making
gonna
a big
eventually
nursery that
offer.
they're just selling their genetics?
Yeah, eventually. That's what I understand. I didn't watch the whole thing, but yeah, that's the end of it. Is going to be they're going to have genetics for sale, and they'll be certified, and they'll be what they say they are, and they're supposed to be clean because they're going to be tissue culture, and they'll be stored cryogenically.
But
Cryo.
it's like
I don't
a
know what the
collective
word
of
is.
people
I forgot
though,
what the
not just
word is.
like this. Because when you say genetic, is it a collective of people or is it just a couple people's? I don't know.
I
I mean,
guess
yeah, I'm interested. I haven't heard about it.
right. The three of them were talking about it on. I don't know who all is involved, but yeah, like you say, it was Jodrey, Skunk VA, and Dutch Blooms were on that panel. So
It's
I don't
just
know. I
instantly in
don't
my head,
know.
I'm saying, how is that different than a nursery that's offering tissue culture?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the details. Do you know, Tao?
That's what I'm saying. I only watched part of it, but that's from what I understood. That's what they were pretty much. That's what Jodrey was discussing, and I don't know if he was talking about his own. Like those other two might not be involved. I don't know, but that's what
I
he was
mean, they
pretty
have
much
those services in Michigan already where you can buy tissue culture cuts from nurseries here too.
I
right.
guess it was
Do they have
scrubbed,
them
not stubbed.
cryogenically frozen?
Oh, scrub. So tissue
Oh,
culture. Okay.
scrubbed.
Scrubbed,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Scrubbing it of its viruses or any ailments or pathogens that you might. Yeah, so I mean that's
I guess also the
available currently.
microbiome too. I know several of the names that were mentioned like talk about how important that is. So I wonder if there's like if any of that preservation is also going on, or how they feel about like hot plate viroids, like validity as a threat too. Um, it'll be interesting to see what the group's official positions are on those things. I'll have to look into it.
Yeah. Sounds like it's just like a combined nursery or something. It doesn't, I mean, okay, cool.
I mean, I think we're going to see more and more of this. Dark Heart Nursery has been doing, I think, hot plate and viroid testing and tissue culture, and there's like Prime Cut, Clone Guy. There's a handful of decent nurseries. Fuck, I'm forgetting a few of the other tissue culture ones, but um, there are definitely they're in existence. They're out there, so they're. I guess it's nothing new, but it's a collective of respected people in the scene, and it'll be interesting for people to have access to a lot of that stuff that maybe they haven't gotten to try yet, especially if they're going to start shipping internationally. You would imagine that they're going to ship to all the states if they're going to ship to Germany. Hopefully, they don't require licensing or large facilities or anything like that, because some do. Like I have not watched it, so shame on me not keeping up with all of FCP's hundreds of videos they put out. They are extremely active over there. Shout out to Peter and the gang. I don't know. I feel like I never see him anymore, but I'm also not watching all of the videos, so it's so much going on. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
he's usually in the chat. I don't see him on the screen as much as I used to, but and I don't watch Future Cat. I can't. I'm like you. I can't keep up with all these videos. No way.
It's
Too
just
many.
like when there's not like
A lot
a
of good stuff on there.
routine, I need to have like a day of the week or like a couple
Yeah,
days of the week. I can't do the I'm getting 3 videos Monday, 5 on Tuesday, 7 on Wednesday, and like 21 by the end of the week. And it's like, wow, like respect to all the creators. I've been over there and made content, but it's just there's a quite the library.
It's like a
yeah,
digital cafe. I kind of feel like kind
Very
of a
much so.
thing, you know?
That
Yeah.
actually leads kind of into high on homegrown's following up question, unless we
Well,
want
this
to
last, well,
dive
this last,
deeper.
one, JP kind of clarified. He said his understanding is that it was supposed to collect from known cuts, verify them to the best of the abilities. That really makes me smile a little bit, and then do a viral scrubbing through tissue culture. So yeah,
Seems like it's a
I have
noble
a different
cause.
opinion. I have a different opinion on these things than a lot of people. I think.
I'll say this, there's a quote again going back to old knowledge. The road to hell is paved with good intention. And remember a great example, don't be too much of a stoner out there, cannabis community, and don't forget about this little group called Phylos, who is coming back into the scene now and like, hey guys, we're not that bad. We're not that bad. Don't remember all the shady shit that we did. We're gonna come back and put a nice little twist on this, and hopefully you all trust us now. But Phylos was supposed to be this genetic catalog of bringing all the known genetics onto their little 3D universe where you could have your stuff plotted and then it would be protected and then that you'd have future artwork. Well, behind the scenes, Phylos was pitching big investors like, oh yeah, basically we're going to get all these genetics for free from all these idiots by testing by the guise of testing them. We're going to keep their genetics. We're going to run breeding programs, run genetic testing on them, find all the important biomarkers, patent and control the shit for ourselves. Then they go on and say, oh, no, we never had any clone nurseries. We never had any intention of breeding this stuff. We just wanted to give credit to all the people on past artwork and blah, blah, blah. But like their whole concept, the whole, oh, you enter a strain to us, it'll go onto our universe. that thing went live and they like never updated it, never kept it going. So it was basically like a big sham from the get-go. Long story short, if you haven't already heard about the Philos debacle, don't sue me. Allegedly, I'll say at the end of this, because they are a much bigger company and have the money and lawyers to come after a little guy like me, but fuck them.
I'll just say this: if the prices are fair for the little guy to get cuts, then I'm all for it. If it's a money grab, then I'm all not for it.
That's what it comes across to me as, and it's like,
But that's for all clones. It doesn't matter whose name's attached. I've
when
seen
like
clones for 5K and I've seen clones for $20. Guess which ones I get?
What
The
would be
$20.
let me
I
ask
don't
you
usually
this.
actually I don't buy clones. They usually are
Let,
gifted to me because I'll just
let me ask
trade.
you this, Spartan. Would you what would make, in your opinion, what would make the service um valuable?
I don't to me, nothing I don't think there's anything they could do to make it valuable to me because I have all of those available to me to where I'm located already. So they'd have to offer something that I don't already have offered to me, I guess.
Is there something in like a TC
Yeah, I have there's a TC lab like 20 minutes from me. I've been through it and toured it, and then there's another one in Ann Arbor, which is 30 minutes from me. So it's
so,
like, yeah, that's
some people are
available.
mentioning I guess blockchain verification being a factor. I'm not sure.
that doesn't do anything.
What is
That does nothing.
verification? That what value is verification to me? I don't give a shit. I grab the plant, I grow it. If I smoke it and like it, I keep it. I don't give a fuck about verifications. I don't care what you name it. I don't care the credentials. I don't care where it fucking came. All that is just BS. It's marketing. All of that is marketing to me.
You listening, OG? Him and I talked about this literally today. We were talking about all these different Stardog cuts and this and that. And I was like, dude, you're getting the cut. Who cares? Grow it out. If it's fire, smoke it, keep it. If it's not, get rid of it. Maybe give it another shot. But like, if it's good, good. If it's not, fucking move along. You know, it gets overcomplicated so often. With you, don't buy
Yes.
the story, buy the fucking product. Like, keep the shit that is really fire to you, and don't.
Yeah, if I had a sick plant that I wanted to keep it, maybe that would be helpful. But like I said, I mean, Jack said tissue culture. I think it's great that they're going to start a tissue culture service, and if they offer to clean cuts for people, that'd be great. That would be
J
a thing that
JP
I would
mentioned
like.
JP mentions that I really like this response. Says I think that that's part of the magic. I think it's to the best of their abilities. Obviously, people remember the same cut with different names. So, I mean, that's always been my contention, right? Like people say, yeah, this is XYZ, and I'm like, cool, okay. Like it doesn't mean I'm not trying to be insulting. And I definitely understand why people might feel like there's an affront, like 'cause that's basically like a credibility check, right? Like how dare you say that I don't know what my nose knows? And I don't know. I feel like there's like decades of like cognitive psychology and science about how fuzzy people's ability to tell things are and how like the cognitive miser. The brain comes naturally, comes to decisions using shortcuts. And you actually have to train yourself to do the reverse. That's why, like for example, scientists who learn scientific method and things like that. Obviously, we thought we had the idea, and then you know, Popper comes down and goes, well, you might not have considered all the variables. And as long as there's always that open question, you phrase things more probabilistically in order to be more accurate. Now, it depends on what we're talking about, but I think in this case, I think that's like I'm just curious, yeah, why would I trust one verification over the other? Why? Because I mean, also is Kevin still working with Philos?
I believe he is, to the last of my awareness. And so that was one of the things I was going to get to is I don't trust one of the names on that list. And it's not Dutch Blooms and it's not whoever the other one was. It is Kevin Cook.
Exactly.
It's the guy who calls himself a career hustler. And I was just describing Brandon as somebody who's like hustling and like grinding, but like when your tagline on your Instagram is like career hustler and you're talking about how your family's like mobbed up or whatever on the East Coast and come from a crime family or whatever, like he's making, yeah, that
I've never heard
everybody's
that before.
history and story is what it is. But I've heard him tell the story a few times on podcasts about That, and I respect him. I think he does have military history and military service, so I respect him for that. And I think they did a good job with his nursery, but eventually people get old. He like shut down his farm because he thought that the pound price was going to go down. To his credit, it did. He got sick that year, ended up like growing like beets or some shit on his farm. And but to the big credit, like what he did was run a nursery for a long time. So maybe he does have or know the cuts, and maybe he doesn't. But um, yeah, I don't know. I just think he would tell you that he has whatever you want if you're looking for something. Because if somebody's a hustler, that's what they do. They fill a void. They're a salesperson. You don't ask, hey, do you have ice cream man available? Because the clone nursery is going to say, yes, of course we have ice cream man available. You say, can you send me a copy of your list of clones? How many you have available of each one? What ones are teens? Which ones are 6 inch? Which ones are rooted? Which ones are just slips? Whatever. But don't go asking for something specific, because a lot of unscrupulous people will have it for you.
It doesn't even have to be unscrupulous. I mean, we can learn from Phylos as well. We don't have to think it's all bad. They did make a big genetic database, and we found out a lot of things that were like headband was just a cut of OG Kush. You know, all these things that people would swear up and down, no, this is what this is. No, that's OG Kush, my friend. That's what you got. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That kind of was an eye opener for me when I saw that back in the day. I was like, okay, there's all these cuts that we thought were their own thing, and no, they're just cuts of another strain. So a lot of, even on the unlicensed side, names get changed like crazy. But I still contend that it gets, the names on strains get changed more often than the licensed side of things.
Oh,
But even
100%.
that's why I don't really, that's why I don't hold a lot of providence to strain names and things like that. Other than if I buy a seed pack, whoever I got that seed pack from, I can, okay, this is what they're calling it, so I'm going to call it this. But if I just got a cut, it is what they said it is. I'm not going to do much research on it. I'm just going to grow it and see if I like it.
I was so hopeful the legal market would come along and do this track and trace seed to sale and at least offer the patient, you can ensure if this says Gorilla Glue 4 or GG4 or original glue, that you're getting GG4. But you know what? My wife has worked in the legal market here in California under metric with the heaviest regulations of all this, it's up there with Michigan and all these other states that have metric. Track and trace, seed to sale, video cameras running 24/7, could be audited at any moment. But guess what? Right within the law, it actually says as soon as that grower sells it to a distributor, the distributor owns the product. And now they are legally allowed to change the name for marketing purposes. Some of them are required. In fact, one group I knew, for local competition reasons, forced the people that were white labeling their own product to call it other names. So yeah, the legal market is as bad or worse than the unregulated market for name changes and things like that. So it is kind of shocking. And like, going just to wrap up on the whole Phylos thing, there was Adam Dunn with TH Seeds who sent like at least 10 fake clones in just to see like where they would fall. He's like, oh yeah, this is OG Kush, but really it was like, some Afghani or like sativa or whatever. He was just sending in bullshit to see where it would fall on there. And they don't know that. So they just threw it up on their galaxy and then compare it to everybody else. So they're like, what? Like there's this OG Kush, and then really it's like Colombian sativa, but like now it's related to all these other things. It says there's OG Kush, and like there's all sorts of weird. They were saying everything was based on blueberry, and like they found some like old hemp in a Joe Petrie talks about this in like one of the ballast of one of these ships, like going back to like the Mayflower era, and it had like hemp, and they were comparing it to like skunk and like saying it was like it had skunk one in it, and it's like, dude, this was long before skunk one. Skunk one has that old hemp in it, it's the opposite. But the way that it got categorized in their little thing was based on which genetic got entered first, not what actually existed first on the planet. So there's a lot of issues with the genetic marking, labeling. And for me, it would come down to like, what clone would I want right now that I could think of that I actually want? I would want cereal milk from Cannabiotics. Their cereal milk tastes like actual cereal milk. It's amazing. It gets me very high. The flour looks great. That's something that I would want, but I would want it from them, like from their facility. Or like I shouted out the Limited Trees Genetics is who they shouted out, who they got the genetic from. I tried to buy a pack from them and they wouldn't send it to me. I think they have like a non-compete, like we're not going to send seeds to people in California because, or Vegas, whatever, where CBX is at, which is kind of an unfortunate thing, but I think let the genetics free. Like one of my other favorites is
Especially seeds. Come on.
right. Yeah, it's not gonna be the
Not
same
like you're putting
phenome.
out clones.
Like how consistent is that seed, right? But the other thing is like Fruity Pebbles OG, FPOG from Alien Genetics. They have never released it publicly. They've talked about doing back crosses or S1s and this and that. I've been on all the email lists, signed up, and never been able to get access to that. So unfortunate, but I won't let that hold us down. I'm going to go to a question. We have two questions that kind of tie together. So going to JP from NB. Oh wait, no, we just read that one. Sorry. Fuck. High on Homegrown says, I saw someone mention how they missed the community feel. Now cannabis is legal for them. Have y'all noticed the changes like that? I'd say a little bit of yes and no. And it also kind of funnily, this is just a comment following up. Mark N earlier was saying their top 0.05% of cheap home grower listeners. And they were saying it was lonely keeping everything on the DL, talking about being like a home grower. I always used to listen to you guys when I was working with the plants. I enjoy particularly talking about the lighting space, strain talk, and genetic talk, and IPM. So shout out to you, Mark N. And I think they're kind of demonstrating a little bit of part of the community aspect can be online. As High on Homegrown, their podcast and community has represented this show, and Michigan Bros Grow Show has represented. A lot of it does go to the online space because we're probably like the 0.5 percenters of like being into the niche of this hobby of dedicating hours a week to maybe listening to shows or being on shows or being in our garden for, we might have to be in there for 15 minutes, but we're in there for an hour just because we enjoy it, watching the leaves blow around and, smelling the stem rubs and, plucking off that one leaf that doesn't look just right, or whatever it is that keeps you in the garden longer than maybe you should be. But ultimately, I think that's part of the health of what keeps things going. So, but I'm curious, as you are in a legal state as well, Spartan, what do you think about High on Homegrown's question, going back to that? Do you think that the community aspect has lessened a bit since it has become legal?
No, for me, it's completely opposite. That's why comments like that shock me, because when it's not legal, you tend to be like the comment you just read. You tend to keep to yourself and not talk too much about it. And you don't do anything as far as what you would consider a community thing, except for maybe some online stuff. But as soon as it was legal, the online became in real life. And you can meet up in real life and hang out and try people's flower from all over the state. And the community grew for me personally. I got way more into the community after legalization than before. So for me, it's like saying, why is the sky red when it's blue? It's obviously blue to me. So to me, I don't understand that question at all because I had a completely opposite experience.
I think maybe what part of their describing is some of what happened in the California market. A lot of it became more cutthroat. A lot of growers shut down, like Noah the Grower was mentioned in Washington as well, where a lot of these maybe 215 era in the medical days or even pre-medical, just people that were growing for, they're a rebel. They're doing it because they're so passionate about it that they're going to do it even if it's not legal. And that's a huge amount of passion and a smaller community that would be represented then when it becomes legal. Teachers can grow it, cops, like mom and pop, like, and that's for the better, I think. But
I
like,
was just going to say, but why do we resist that so much?
no, it's
That should
great.
be a smile on your face. That should
No,
be good.
I'm happy. My face is on the
Yeah.
show because it became legal in California. And now, if somebody that I work with in my regular day job saw this, I'd be like, yeah, it's legal in California. I'm an adult. I can grow 6 plants in my house, and it's something I'm passionate about. It's my most effective and only used medication. And so I'm happy that I can do it out and about, but at the same time, like during the 215 era, I was in a different stage in my life in that time. So maybe they might be reflecting on some of my own uh, experiences, but I was younger, I was single, I was in college, and I was able to like work on crops and greenhouses and like kind of be a water boy for somebody else's gig and working in a delivery service, learning about how to grow a little bit more and eventually taking the whole grow into my own in my own house and closet. And, I talked about that guy who took me under his wing at the hydro shop and things like that. But um, there is community. It's just, I think, different when everybody like had to do it when we were hiding in hydro shops and like talking to the guy after everybody left. I was doing that even when it was legal, but it's just because like I didn't want to like bother somebody else who wanted to just come in and out and get something. It wasn't because I was like afraid that I was going to be followed home or like had to like change my license plate. My wife works with this guy, and to his credit, like he has been doing it for a long enough time that safety was a huge concern, and it still is. Fucking, there are people that rob people in the legal market and the unregulated markets. So I'm not going to pretend like he's not um, right to have operational security. He is in a different car every week. He doesn't own a car. He rents a car because he is afraid. He's like, he does a lot of bigger business, and there's California is fucking still the Wild West, man. And it's
Dude,
unfortunate, but
I knew someone who had a car registered in a dead guy's name because that's like how intricate they got with their paranoia and got it done though. So they had a car like,
look at Operation
yeah,
Green
that's
Merchant,
crazy.
though. I mean, like they were
Yeah,
following
yeah,
people, they were writing down license plates that were going to grow shops. Like there is a history within the last 30, 40 years where this
yeah.
happened. So like people have a reason or had a reason to be paranoid. And maybe now, if they're in a green state, they don't have to have that reason anymore. Like I said, I'm reflecting on it as like the guy who used to go to the public library and look stuff up on their computer because I was in Ohio and I was like, I don't want this
Yeah.
on my fucking computer. Are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah, that's some good OPSEC. And nowadays, like I've said it before on this podcast, and I'll say it again, like we we have to live like we're little like each person's like a little nation state. Republic of Democratic Republic of Matthew. And you've got to keep yourself safe from all these prying things. And it sounds like a paranoid thing to say, but like, yeah, and like Jack says eloquently, this happened like decades ago. It's only gotten more sophisticated, not less. Um, and yeah, I just feel like it's surprising. It's something I take seriously.
as
Probably
everyone should.
above
I mean,
average, you know?
I've been in
Yeah,
a
as people
situation.
should.
I called the police because some shit went down, that you call the police for. I won't get into the specifics of it, but um, you know, I did what most people would do in a certain situation, and they just never showed up. They never came. It was one of those nights they were too busy and other shit was more pressing. And so sometimes no one's coming. It's up to you and you alone or your family or friends or loved ones to defend your home, property, things like that.
Smith and Wesson.
That's a good way.
But
Okay.
I was just gonna backtrack on the community thing. I noticed that when COVID, when the world was in lockdown, we were all on our computer screens hanging out. You know, that's like when Eagle started and a whole bunch of other people got a good upcoming on the social community cannabis, in my opinion. It was awesome and it still is awesome. But now that we're like back to going to work and having other responsibilities, a lot of people are being missed, and yeah, it kind of sucks, but such is life. But yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, like Spartan was saying. But on the other hand, like even before it was truly legalized, like or for some reason I have this thing image in my head when this whatever at play. So when a kid, you have a kid that's like 5 or 6 years old, right? You could give them three presents that are wrapped, right? And be like, these two you can open, but this one you can't open. And if you leave the room, they're gonna go for the one you said you can't open that one. That's the one that they're gonna open. So that, like, to me was kind of the thing with cannabis too. But once someone partakes of cannabis after their parents, TV, and their elders say it's how bad for you, and then you smoke it, experience it, then you realize that's like when I realized that there's all these people are liars. These motherfucking people are liars. Excuse my French. So that's when I started questioning everything, and it was kind of like the best thing that ever happened to my psyche is because, yeah, because of that. Because I smoked weed and it was awesome, not deadly, and a gateway drug to death. So
That's why there's so
that's
many
that's
independent
my little.
skeptic
I still
cannabis
remember that
smokers.
moment. It wasn't even smoking it. There was a very young Spartan going, sneaking into his dad's room and finding a gallon's freezer bag full of weed. I'm like, oh, and this motherfucker trying to tell me. It's just like, what the fuck? So yeah, that was my moment. You
Yep.
just
That's like Lady G's parents. They were fucking growing it, smoking it, and then telling her like, it's the worst, don't do it. Fucking stay away from it. Oh man, it's funny the maybe hypocrisy. People, parents want to do their best and keep their kids away from what they think is bad. Because even then, like if they smoked it, like they might have still had some of the underlying. Like I think some of us still like shame ourselves and think it's like this like lazy person thing or some bad whatever cannabis stigma had been fed to you in your lifetime, and it's hard to get over that, even if you see it as this positive thing and are able to use it and overcome and um, if and when you are having a lazy moment, you might be like, oh fuck, maybe if I wasn't smoking this, then I would be. But it's really, I think, more of a motivation comes from within, and discipline is more important than anything. Like setting stuff up so that you just consistently get it done. Um, but we do have a good question, like getting it done. Answering questions. Cake in a Cup says, if a plant has been cleaned like Grateful Head is, could it make it more susceptible to pathogens? Once all its pathogens, um, it has learned to live with have been scrubbed. And I was thinking more just like Scotty Real always said, nature absolute horrors a vacuum, right? So if you scrub something, then maybe good stuff comes back, maybe bad stuff comes back, but empty plate is room for bad shit to, you know, ingress. So Matthew, I'm curious, as our IPM guy, if you have thoughts on that question from Cake in a Cup.
Well, it's kind of the reason why I brought up what I said earlier. I think that uh, Kevin, Dutch Blooms, and I'm not sure about Skunk VA, but I think at least those two, they're often talking about the importance of, plant microbiome. Um, although I do feel like sometimes more detail is important. Uh, because it's one thing to say that like microbes are good or they can do good things. It's another to like make, I think, maybe bold or unfounded statements. But what I do know about them is that they do care a lot about the microbiome, and this question touches on the importance of like, because I'll answer it, I'll say yes. I think that plants don't have they don't have what's called in immunology an adaptive immune system. They have the innate immune system, and animals usually typically have both. What that means is that we have an immune system with like white blood cells and that kind of stuff. Plants don't have that, but they do have like a mercenary system where microbes that they get from their parents, also they get from the environment, uh, they help them with various things. They help modulate the rest of their processes. And so I think it's very important to consider how you inoculate plants. And there's various commercial ways that people do this against pathogens and things, but I'm also interested in like, because some of these effects are a little bit discrete or maybe circumstantial. So if you know where the plant's going, if you know that you apply this strain of like Serratia, whatever, or Orbus, whatever, or Bacillus or Bavaria, whether you want to endophyte inside the tissue, and epiphyte on the surface of the tissue, in the foliage, in the roots, and also understanding the what's really important and often overlooked is like the residence, because in studies they show that like these microbes might be colonized or inoculated, and whether through environmental effects or just through the maturity of the plant or other things, even knock-on effects to other microbes. Certain microbes the population might ebb and flow or totally deteriorate. So just because you apply it, even at the beginning, doesn't mean you'll have it for very long. And part of that is understanding the strain, part of that is understanding the cultivar and its genetic idiosyncrasies, and then also part of it is understanding if it's just like you're going to have to re-inoculate over time to get the best effect or for certain effects that you want. That's my articulated response to that question, which is a good one.
My opinion on these things is kind of just to equate the plant to a human body a little bit. And I'll answer your question with a question. It's like, if you are sick with the flu, and so we'll say you're sick with the flu and the common cold comes around to come invade you as well, is your body likely to fight it off easier or better with that flu going on? I think the answer is going to be you're better off not having anything to fight off and have your immune system fight off one thing at a time rather than being already sick with something and not worrying about something taking its place. I don't think that's the way it happens. I think that something else can also infect, you know, when it comes to these things. Like you could get hop latent viroid and you could also get, you know, botrytis or something completely different. So to me, I'd rather have my plant to be clean and at its healthiest to have the biggest immune system and the biggest plant responses. I don't know if plants have immune systems now that I'm saying that out loud, but their biggest defense is
Yeah,
at
they have an
least
immune system.
okay. Like I know they use they oxidize things usually, but
It's like they don't have like, I mean, land plant, water plant, very broad, but generally they don't have like white blood cells like we have. They don't have like specialized immune cells that do this kind of like active defense. Does that make sense? But but
yeah,
the
right.
cells can have, but because of that, they also have like each cell kind of works. It has like its own individual effects. Anyways,
All right. So yeah, so I think absolutely you'd rather start out clean, and it's just I don't think it's a thing about there's you know empty chairs to be sat in. I don't think it's so much that. I think it's you know you can get to the end of the harvest hypothetically speaking with nobody in those chairs, and that's kind of the end game. So I think the easiest way to get to that goal is to start out with nobody in those chairs, not having people in them.
yeah, and like I mean, it's even being found with like pests too. Like this totally titanic video that I'm still working on with budworms. One of my favorite aspects of it was I had a great excuse to look at how the microbiome of the pest makes it much more formidable, which people sleep on all the time, as I'm wont to say on this podcast. But there's like enterobacter, and there was another bacteria which are common in moths and their larvae and in different stages like egg versus larva versus adult and pupa. And what they found was that for budworms, they often would incorporate microbes that were found on the surface or inside the leaves, and that would sometimes benefit them. They would actually use because the plant microbes, they don't have a loyalty, you see. Um, a lot of them are facultatively beneficial. So like in the right context, sure, they'll help out this thing that's their shelter, but they don't like necessarily always have like a very sophisticated response. And so they'll get into the gut of the caterpillar, and a lot of times they've been shown to be able to defeat or help them defeat like BT, which we use all the time. So yeah, like so like the same thing can be true also in like keeping sort of being aware of what the microbes are in a good way on the plant, and then seeing if we can alter the microbiome like on the surface so that we don't have those microbes that might benefit the pest. So that's another thing I think we should think about.
I think it's important to think about like surface. Yeah, I think surface areas, things that are exposed to outside. Yeah, I agree that that's more of like their seats to be taken kind of a thing, and you can be taken by good or bad guys. But I think internally speaking, unless there's like a lot of
Well, they'll eat the tissue,
pressure,
right?
yeah.
Like it happens to us too. Like we'll eat like, we eat like millions of
Well, I'm
endophytic
saying more for plants.
bacteria.
I'm saying more. I'm saying plants. I'm saying for plants, surface bacteria populations and things do work more towards what the question asker was asking, what they were saying. But I don't think like tissue culture, that's more of like cleaning up inside the plant. And I don't think it really works the same way. I think it's still better off to be clean slate, whereas maybe not so good to be clean slate on your leaf surface, for example, where you could have lactobacillus or something. I don't know if that.
Oh, I see, I see. I guess my point would be that um the sometimes the endophytes are also helpful for having like a effect on the surface too. But yeah, that's a really good
Oh
point.
yeah,
Those are
I
those
agree
are
with you.
definitely different. Yeah, they're definitely contexts that are different.
I want to take a second to welcome in SeedPerson1. Cheers.
What's up, guys?
Not much. Happy to have you back.
Yeah, I figured I'd say hi and I can show some plants if you want.
We would love that. And,
Awesome. Welcome, SeedPerson. Great to
What's
see
up,
you.
Tao?
apologies for the little bit of negative vibes last week in the
Oh,
chat.
you're all good. I was
I
just,
missed
I
it
don't like
all.
to see people see people arguing and shit, so I figured it's yeah, but this is better right
Yeah,
here.
plant talk, man. And seeing plants,
Yeah.
it just makes people happy. This is what people come for. We love this shit.
Get a lighter here.
Got one little baby in there with all the big girls.
That's the male. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
These
bro's
are
about to go
all
off.
I know, right? It's he's gonna have a party in here. These are 3 green crack crossed to platinum float. And then this is a nightmare cookies. And I'm gonna have it hit all 3 of these a little bit. And then maybe cross it back to my favorite one of the 3. So I got some clones of each one.
That's always fun, man. Seeing how they work together and just the original crosses versus whatever you mix it with.
Yeah, these 2 look a lot more like the green crack in terms of the way that they're growing and the structure of the branches. And then this one back here is more like the platinum float.
They're looking good. Good structure, healthy, green, filled in, more than 3/4 of the tent. Looks like they're wall to
Actually,
wall.
I had to cut about 1/3 of each plant off because they were it was too packed in here. So I took some clippers and I just started chopping branches down in here and stuff that weren't gonna come up all the way. And I
It
probably
was really
took about 1/3 of the tops off.
Great for airflow and that stuff. Like you said, it's not going to amount to anything. So why risk the mold and create way more issues for yourself with trying to either crank tons of air and make certain stuff unhappy? I think that was a smart move for sure. Oh, that's a beautiful cat. Boy or
This
girl?
is Atticus. That's a boy. That's his sister over here, Scout.
Mine's sleeping right next to me on my mouse pad that I'm not using.
Nice.
We got
We
the
got
purple
some
frosty
others.
girl over here.
This is a seeded tent. Well, that one's not seeded actually, but this is seeded. So I had a Indian landrace male in here, and it kind of got out of control on me a little bit. So I ended up with I only meant to pollinate this one here, which is the Afghan landrace from Sheboygan, Afghanistan. But this got a bunch of pollen on it, so all these are just seeded up. But it'll be all right because this is a purple panty dropper and supposed to be a really good, like, kind of heady stone. So I figured cross that to the landrace sativa will be a pretty good strain. Happy accident. And Spartan's gonna get some of these.
Yeah, that's the one I really like.
Yeah, I'll send you some of these. This is a Gold Cash Gold crust to white truffle cheese that Artman sent me. It's very I'm excited about it. It looks delicious.
What are you smoking on? I saw you had a joint in your hand and a few of the clips
This is
there.
a Gelato 41 from Atlas Seeds.
How's it taste?
It's very tasty. It's got like almost like that coffee smell to it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, there's definitely good coffee notes and some good cannabis for sure. I think Todd's a coffee guy, right? Maybe or the chocolate
Yes,
that I was thinking.
I live on coffee. I cannot function without coffee. I will not drive a vehicle without coffee in the morning.
Some good looking bud.
Yeah,
Tight,
very
frosty.
dense. Very dense.
Gelatos typically look, very, very dense. That's one of the big things for them is bag appeal. I do think gelato has good flavor and pretty good high, as much as cookies get kind of pigeonholed for being like overhyped and stuff. But well grown, homegrown, they have great flavor and good stone typically.
Well, there's a reason why that people buy it in the stores. It tastes good. So
Yeah.
If you can find a good cut or pop a good seed of it or something. This is a kind of a mess in here. I've got a bunch of stuff going on. These 3 are clones that I took of the 3 and the 3 big girls back here. And then they got a little wonky on me. So I took some more clones. These are backups. I'm waiting for those to root. And then this is a peanut butter souffle that I just popped. I got some seeds down here that I dropped just this afternoon. This is the flapjacks that I just grew, and it's so good. So I kept it. I'm re-vegging it. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. And then this is a 9-pound hammer mom that I've just been neglecting. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it or not, so I don't really have room for it. But yeah, and then this is my stinging nettle that I just planted, and this is going to be for pain relief. Hopefully, I'm going to try it out because we've been talking about stinging nettle for arthritis pain relief.
Yep.
And I have like neck pain, which isn't arthritis, but I figured why not try it? I can grow it myself and it wouldn't hurt, you know. So I mean, it will hurt because it stings, but
You get used to it though, man. You'll be surprised.
Yeah.
Build
Yeah.
tolerance to it. Oh, I think that's a good idea, and it's a cheap, easy way to do it. I like
better
it.
than opiates.
Million times better.
A lot safer. Unless you're like deathly
You get a
allergic.
patch of that growing outside. If you have any kind of a yard, you can get a patch of that growing outside. It'll just come back every year.
Oh yeah, and this is the Nightmare Cookies female that I kept. We'll do that later. Yeah, I'm gonna put some of this outside for sure though. Sorry, I just forgot about that one. But yeah, that'd be cool. I'm gonna have like a big pot in my front, right by the front door, and just
see you out there rolling in the nettles. Be like, what in the hell is wrong with that?
But yeah, that's my little setup.
Looking good. What lights do you have over those plants?
These are AC Infinity S33, 240 watt.
Looking good.
And they go with this is the 3x3 from AC Infinity, the whole setup with the controller and filter and everything though.
It seems to be working like a charm.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't had any problems with it. I added these in here to keep it from sucking in. Just
Smart.
tied that shit in there.
By all accounts, I haven't tried one yet, but if I don't go with another Vivo Sun, I'm considering an AC Infinity because they have the controllers built right in, and they also run a little bit quieter by a lot of people's reports. Does anyone know Brandon Looney Tunes fan 2000? There somebody who's trying to join. I haven't seen that name before.
I don't.
I can't.
They said that they were new.
Yeah, I don't know him. It sounds like he's from the UK though. I don't know why, but
I was just thinking, how do you get the UK from that?
Was Looney Tunes big in the UK? Am I missing something?
no, I don't know. Actually, maybe that's just totally mind
Yeah, I said just
part of my
yeah,
part.
that's a
I
little
have no
bigoted,
idea why.
Tao. Okay. I don't
Gosh,
know.
they're going to come in. They're going to be from the UK.
Yeah.
But do I let them in? That's the question. I don't want
Yeah, go
to.
ahead. What do we got to lose? You can always just.
Well, you know,
boom.
pin it on
I mean,
you.
I know what we got to lose.
Pin it
I'll-
on
Innocent.
I'll pin.
Innocence.
All right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pin it on
Differential
myself.
diagnosis here.
Spotlight for everyone. I'm gonna spotlight Jack's beautiful face for all of you to see, and we're gonna take a chance, y'all. Brandon,
There you
Looney
go.
Tunes fan. All right, everybody, welcome, Brandon, Looney Tunes fan 2000. How you doing, Brandon?
Good day, mate. No, that was me.
I know, Tao. The listeners out there might not, but I could definitely hear.
Shit.
Brandon, are you with us yet? Can you hear me? I let him hang for a while, so maybe they weren't prepared quite yet. So now let me scroll over and see if I can see him.
Yeah, now they got
It
stage
says
fright.
connecting for audio.
got-
Connecting for audio.
Oh,
They got
now
worried.
you're connecting. Yeah,
There
you
it
have to
comes.
press a few buttons to connect, right? Yeah.
You have to like hit
Accept,
connect with cell or whatever
yeah, for the
or
sound.
Wi-Fi, and then like accept the microphone.
It takes longer when you're from Europe too.
That's what I was just thinking. Spartan. Check. He's checked in.
Brandon, can you hear us?
Good
Cheers.
evening, Brandon. You got your microphone muted.
You'll have to unmute yourself before you talk. But how you doing tonight? Check. Brandon, there you are.
Hello.
How's it going?
I'm going on new sounds. I'm going on some new panels.
That's what's up. Well, welcome in. Do you have some plans to show us, or do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
I think I did hit the sub button.
Okay.
We appreciate the sub. Do you grow cannabis? Are you into cannabis?
Yeah, I'm married.
You broke up. What was that?
I'm mainly soft old school classics that brings back people's childhood.
All right. I don't know if this is the panel for you. We're a cannabis growing show here,
What's
so
where's cannabis anyway?
it is a plant. It's like these leaves that you see here behind me. Well, it was nice chatting with you. I hope you have a great evening.
Do you have a favorite Looney Tune character?
So sorry about that, but
I feel vindicated.
yeah, the name should have been a little bit of a.
Right.
I think sometimes when you put an open link out there, anybody will join, and
Still up in the
YouTube
air.
somehow.
They could have been from Europe. Still up in the
Right.
air.
Still up in the air. And
I'm gonna go
Mr.
by the
Logan,
accent, no, but I'll hats off to you, Tao. And I'm gonna unspotlight myself so you can get enough of Jack's beautiful face and see a little bit of Spartan and some of the logos and other stuff.
M's in the chat for me who
Dubs,
is too cynical.
dubs in the chat for Matthew.
Well, because anyways.
L's for all of the rest of us. But
Everyone was very skeptical.
at least there was
This is
no
the world we
like
live in now.
I've seen much worse. Okay, so
So that
like
was very entertaining.
Oh, it was actually not terrible.
I work, I've mentioned with in the past, like a particular population of people, and I think this individual, and I don't know, I don't even want to get deep into it, but certain people I think have a little bit harder time socially. So I don't want to critique anybody. All love. I grew up on fucking Looney Tunes. I think it's cool shit. Shout out to you, Brandon, Looney Tunes fan, if you are still listening.
Oh, I'm a
Yeah.
fan of Looney Tunes for sure.
hell yeah. Tasmanian Devil's my guy, man.
I like the Tweety Bird. I've seen some people that have like cars with like Tweety Bird headliners and like their headrests and stuff, and people get
Oh,
into
I've
it, man. Lots of interesting, fans.
It's a cultural touchstone. I was talking to a friend recently who they're from Eastern Europe, and it was funny because like they grew up watching like cartoons that I'm sure Jack and I perhaps, and others here grew up watching. And it's because like American shows that got really popular, they broadcast, especially like there when the Soviet Union fell apart, that's when a lot of that stuff like became really big and influx. And like think
One
about
of our
like
biggest exports was media. Gorbachev did a Pizza Hut commercial, and they were drinking more Pepsi. They had a fleet of Pepsi ships to import
That's
so much
amazing.
Pepsi to Russia, and like Metallica did like a 1.4 million person concert
I had
like
no idea
a
about
few
that.
months before the Soviet Union fell. So we export culture very well. And I'm a fan of soft diplomacy. Shout out to China, who's sending us 2 pandas here in San Diego. I think they might already have arrived, but they're going to be like in seclusion for like a month until they get adapted to the San Diego bamboo. But they've shipped them with like hundreds of pounds of bamboo. They eat a shit ton of it. I think like the ping pong diplomacy, panda diplomacy, whatever it is, I like countries
Whoa.
not
Well,
not
Jack,
hating each other.
wow. No, I'm just
It was a thing. It's historical. I think however you can have not war, I'm all for that. As somebody who's had family members get fucked up by war, Vietnam started on a false flag. My uncle went. He got fucked up by Agent Orange, had PTSD his whole life. I heard some of his stories, and it's horrible. Anybody who's been, for the most part, will tell you they don't want more war. They're not going to beat the drums of it. I think cannabis is a mostly peaceful plant. Like you don't see people fighting
Speaking
at
of China,
cannabis events.
speaking of China, yeah, like that's actually one thing I think it would really benefit the people over there who have if you've heard the 996 lifestyle, right? Like 9 a.m., 9 p.m., 6 days a week or more. I
It
mean,
would help tremendously.
yeah,
Inflammation, pain, stress,
hey,
sleep.
traditional Chinese medicine. Come on.
They have thousands, and that's like to me one of the biggest changes. I have family again, like my brother
Yeah.
married someone who's from there, and I would love to go travel there. But guess what? I can't because I need cannabis daily, and I would fucking get arrested or maybe even like killed over it there. So it's not a risk I'm willing to take at this point.
But yeah, it's my hope that a lot of places, I know it's like really restricted in a lot of places in Eastern Asia, Southeast Asia, Southern Asia, but I'm really excited for those things potentially turning over. I know that in some of those countries there's been like it's been very volatile, right? Like was it Thailand? Um where like everyone was going there and they said, "Yeah, yeah, we'll do it." And then they were like, "No, just kidding." And maybe now they're like, "Yeah, well, maybe we'll do it." Like you can't
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you can't like you can't like eject your entire life savings for like this opportunity and then just get like smashed in the face for it. I think that's like very unfortunate, obviously.
I'll just say again, I remain hopeful. Like the historical thing I referenced, the whole ping pong diplomacy in 1971 ended up lifting an embargo. So like a simple recreational game, a
When
sport,
was this?
1971, the US and
So
PRC, there was a embargo, there was a trade issue.
was that Deng Xiaoping's time? Do you know?
I
Did you
don't
look it up?
I
Anyways, keep
could
going.
but irregardless, I think that I'm happy to see unification as opposed to divide, where there's other shit going on in the world that's the opposite, you know? So wherever we can have positive diplomacy, I think is typically a good thing, unless there's maybe potentially underhanded nature. But I like to be optimistic and think that generally we're trying to avoid like things that'll end badly for all of us.
I'd like to think that too.
Just reading through chat, and Penny Pebble Ripplers commented, North Korea is legal. Go figure. Is that true? North Korea
That
has.
is legal. That's true, from what I understand.
Wow, I did not
I
know
wouldn't
that.
I would not visit there for a lot of other reasons. I don't think we're even
I was
legally
gonna
allowed.
say that's
But
still I
another
would visit
example,
there
Dennis
before I would
Rodman.
go some other places though. Now that I know that, it's moved way up on my list. It was pretty low.
It
Hey,
grows
Dennis
wild
Rodman.
all over the country, and people just go get it. That's what I heard. Like on the
Are they talking
roadside, you
about
can just like find
Canada
a
or
bunch
the
of
real
buds
North
and
Korea?
shit.
Sweet.
Sorry.
Wow.
That sounds like a. See, that doesn't sound. You making North Korea sound better and better. I'm liking this. Improving my
Yeah, and
opinion.
now they're gonna let like maybe tens of thousands of people transport and travel to another country. It's probably gonna have no cultural blowback at all when they come back,
It's they're
probably.
just engineers. They're just
They're just
engineers.
engineers, and also they've never been outside the country, so that's gonna be
I'll just
Totally
a
go
shock.
keep it positive and say, look at like the Dennis Rodman example. He was like a kind
Yes,
of kooky
yes.
basketball player who like wore a wedding dress at some point and like is kind of your very out there eccentric individual. But apparently Kim Jong-un loves Dennis Rodman and he's been over there a bunch of times and they're like buddy buddy. So it's like if you can cool the heads of some of these people who occasionally get heated and have possession of powerful weapons, I think all the better, right? You know, world being a more peaceful place. Fucking get a doobie in their hands, have Dennis Rodman smoking a blunt with them or something, you know, like calm their asses
Yeah,
down.
for sure, for sure, for sure. I totally agree. I would love to see like Xi Jinping, you know, just take one.
I think Chong is ethnically Chinese, like from Cheech and Chong, and it'd be cool if he could be like a cultural icon there, you know, too, because he brought it to the U.S. in a big way, and him and Cheech, um, where a lot of other people were afraid to bring it out in public, like they were so early. And man, it's funny they were in my wife made me watch Fern Gully the other night, The Last Forest. It's some cartoon from her childhood, and I'd never seen it. Robin Williams is in it as well. Interesting movie.
I loved
Ferngully.
Ferngully. I
Yeah, I was
loved
gonna say it's a good
Ferngully.
movie, man. That's a
Greatly
I
enjoyed
loved
it. I was
Ferngully.
missing out. There's so many movies out there. It's you can't see all of them. So I finally have checked that one off my list, and I will also agree. Great movie. I watched it and I'm like, you know, it looks kind of like a children's movie. It's 2D animation, but you can tell clearly the authors and the people behind it had like a very sincere take and image. Like they were not very happy with loggers specifically or the deforestation. And this is always all the way back to 1992. And it's just interesting that like one of the first scenes, Robin Williams flies in, he's like, "I'm a bat from a biolab," and I was like, "Oh my God, this is ahead of its time." He was like an escaped bat from a biolab. He had like a
Clever.
little antenna on his head. I just thought that was so funny.
Yeah. I really liked the depiction of like the what was the like the smog creature,
Oh yeah, it had a name. I
the
can't remember, but
pollution creature.
it like
Yeah.
attached itself to the
Like that way
leveler, the
the way
device that was chopping down all
yeah, and
the
it would like suck
forest.
out like the exhaust like it was taking
It
a
was
big
growing
rip.
off of the fumes.
It was really like obviously it was like gross and disgusting, but also like just so well done. Just oh man,
Very
the
well depicted.
animation.
It sold
It's
the image of
yeah.
like this is dirty and gross and disgusting, and like it associated that with, and even like the people that were driving it,
But
they were like kind
almost
of like
almost
dumb.
almost insidiously though, right?
Oh,
Like
100%. They were
yeah.
100% climate activists and like had a message. It was like an Australian and an American climate activist in 92. I like looked into like the deeper meanings. I was like, damn, this is, and the other thing is that's the one that doesn't get referenced. Avatar, that new movie, is basically just fucking Fern Gully. But everyone says Pocahontas, or that's what I've heard other people will refer to. Pocahontas has some similarities, but I'm like, dude, Fern Gully, like they shrink the little one dude who's like spraying X's on the trees to get chopped down. He's like a little Cali surfer boy, and then he falls in love with the
Yeah.
little fairy.
Like a
And so I'm
literal
like, this is like the
pixie manic
Navi,
pixie girl.
you
Yeah.
know, falling in love or whatever with the guy in Avatar. It's like very, very strong inspirations, perhaps. I don't know if James Cameron watched that, but perhaps.
Yo, I was just going to mention that all the people that are going to let leave North Korea are probably agents of the military. Just throwing it out there.
Well,
I have a
yeah, no,
very
that was
low
tongue in
faith
cheek. Sorry.
that yeah, any of them wouldn't be.
I should be careful what I assume people know about like the geopolitical situation or what I know for that matter.
I'll say this, just
They're
unfortunately,
all
like
spies.
even like children, like my family was in sports and we ran a volleyball tournament, like one of the biggest, I think it was actually the biggest ever in Orlando, Florida. There's like thousands of teams. One of them was from China, and they had representatives from the party with the team to make sure that none of the kids who were like 12 to 17 would defect and like come off to America to like live here. You know, they had to go back. You have to be taken home. And this is a different way of life. Like they went to Subway to like try some food that they would eat locally around there. And my dad ordered like a chicken teriyaki sub or something. And then the coach asked my dad, like, what did you order? And he goes, chicken teriyaki sub. There's like 13 kids on the team. So he goes, 14 chicken teriyaki subs. He ordered one for him, and like everybody on the team got exactly what my dad got. Like there wasn't choice in the matter. That was just how things rolled. So it was a very interesting firsthand cultural differences, and they actually kicked ass. They fucking won the tournament. So shout out to them. They are some of the most talented athletes I'd ever seen. But the amount of training and hard work, and who knows what other things went into making all that. But yeah, fascinating to see firsthand.
Abolish said in the chat that they were curious about like cannabis that might be coming from like China, East Asia sort of area. And I do know that a lot of like important foundational hemp varieties are from and the fiber hemp, and I'm sure that I know that there's oil and seed hemp too that comes from or is associated with Chinese like populations. And of course like Tibet and which is according to some people not China. The Qinghai Lake area in that space is close to the best examples we have of where the cannabis that we know of derives from. So perhaps it's one of, or perhaps the origin zone, and that's based on like pollen fossil uh, documented and some other information that escapes me at the moment. But there's a lot of research into where cannabis may have come from, and it seems like that was a huge radiation point, both further eastward and also westward into what is Western Asia, Central Asia, the Middle East, however you want to call it, and then uh, Europe or Western Eurasia, and then down into other places. Yeah.
I
So
think from what I'm
it's
reading right
very
now,
important. It's very,
China
very
still
important.
allows hemp, but like the 0.3 and below THC
Yeah.
slash THCA varieties, but
Yeah,
I
they
don't know how
definitely.
widely cultivated it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Chinese say, the what is it? The sky is vast and the emperor's far away. Like when you're far enough away from a regulatory entity, you can kind of do make stuff happen.
I think a
Like
lot of
it, like in
Americans have taken that
Xinjiang.
approach, and Europeans, and
Yes, for sure.
I
Oh
love
yeah,
that.
it's so true.
Africa, South America, that is sort of the old tried and true for cannabis. Keep it out of sight, out of mind, and if you're far enough away, that's where a lot of like people in Ohio got it from like stuff in cornfields or like down in Athens and like all around like the more rural areas where you had people that had lots of land that they could, in the midst of their corn or soy or whatever else they're growing, have a patch that was big enough to make them a few grand. little extra bumper crop that they don't have to report to anybody and be flush with cash that ends up going to their local communities. I think it was one of the most beautiful eras of American history. If you look back at it, it's like the people that were rogue and outlaw enough to, other than like the deaths and shit that come along with any outlaw
So other
society.
than the jail terms and
Oh,
families
but Jack, think
because
of
of
the
that,
art.
yeah, people got away with it. Hell yeah.
Yeah, for those who didn't get caught. Those who did get caught, though, that fucking the lives that were ruined, cannabis and other things, but it we can't change that. We can support groups like the Last Prisoner Project, who we do a fundraiser with every year. You don't have to wait for that fundraiser. You can always support them. You can always write letters to people who are incarcerated if you have time. Uh, you know, that's a currency for a lot of people is giving them a little few moments in their day where they might think about like I always like to put myself in somebody else's shoes. Like if you had your freedom taken away from you, especially over something like cannabis, specifically cannabis in these people's cases, and then having to be locked up in who knows what kind of detention facility, because a lot of the time they put you in there with some of the worst, hardest, whatever, because this is what's available, um, overcrowding in some of these facilities and this and that. Some of these people are in there like life sentences, 30-year sentences over like a couple joints. Shit that I was done smoking before the morning ends. It's just sad. And they're still in
Also,
there.
people getting hard labor for it in some fucking states. Like
Countries,
if you
yeah.
get to Louisiana, it's like, are you kidding me? Now we got illegal slavery. That's what we got going on. That's
Well,
insane.
Yeah, yeah.
That
This
is
day and age.
unfortunately, like if you go back to the Constitution, um, you have like the right to not be a slave until you commit a crime. That is like how it's written. So as soon
Yep,
as you commit that crime,
that's
you
right.
no longer have the right to not be a slave anymore. So that's why they can actually make you work for slave-like labor. Like if you look at California prisons, Louisiana prisons, they make them work for like 5, 10, 15 cents an hour or whatever it is. So maybe like after weeks of labor, they can buy themselves like a Rice Krispie on commissary or some shit. It's and some of these people are really bad fucking people and maybe deserve exactly what that is happening. But in the case of nonviolent cannabis crimes, I think we can mostly all agree those aren't the people that deserve to be in that situation. And especially now that we're seeing such a large amount of states, and even in some of the states that have gone legal, they didn't think like, oh, we should expunge and release all these people. So like now there are some people that are literally actively locked up in a state where, they might have sold a little bit, but now there's thousands of pounds being sold and millions of dollars of taxes going to the government. And I think the least they and all of us can do is to try and help get those people out. And that's why I always like to plug Last Prisoner Project. They do such a great job. Shout out to Uncle Rick and Let's Be Buds because without them, we wouldn't be involved in that. I didn't do this myself, but I'm happy to donate at least 2 hours and one show a year. I would almost wish we could do it on like 420 and 710. Like fucking let's do it more, fucking. But that's why I'll shout it out now when I think about it.
Definitely appreciate that. We're basically are doing that at Let's Be Buds now every Wednesday. If you want, we have a GoFundMe, I think it is. That's no, we have another campaign going. Anyhow, uh, you can donate all throughout the whole year up to the chatathon, and so that option's there. If somebody wants. The reason we have it there is so that it could links to Dutchies, because Dutchies is a partner that has agreed to match everyone's donation dollar for dollar up to $1 million, and they're almost to 1 million. So we're trying to take advantage of every dollar, trying to get them to 1 million. So yeah, if you donate $10, it's actually $20 if you go through the link.
Yeah, that's 2 to 1, man. That's amazing. When I saw them at one of the trade shows, I was like, thank you so much for all you guys do for Last Whisper. And then like the people that I was talking to had no idea about it. And then like I finally got linked up with someone who was like a higher up who they're like, well, thank you for appreciating us. And because like they're just, I hate to say it, like a payment processor. They're like kind of like a somewhat boring dollars and cents, type job. It's important. Some people call them bean counters or whatever, but like we need those people to keep shit running and they can make sure that our transactions are being processed because it's still federally illegal. In a lot of places, they have like ATM systems where like they'll charge your card and then maybe it'll be like $5 or $10 more, but then they give you cash back to like make the difference or whatever. And like there's all sorts of different like Stronghold or whatever community pay, like online. You can do little online payments instead of having to pay cash with everything. And that's it makes a difference, man. Like my wife's in the position now where, she gets and has been for a long time in the cannabis industry, she's getting regular paychecks deposited into a bank account and like pay stubs, tax taken out. And it's funny because there's federal taxes taken out and like not a small amount. And the fact that it's still federally legal, it's just crazy that they are able to make that happen in the payment processing. But ultimately, the structuring of businesses is more complex than I care to get into in this podcast. It's not the most interesting. I think CPAs and lawyers and tax accountants and attorneys and whatever consultants can hash that stuff out for the other days. But yeah, it's just interesting to see that it's come to the place that it is, where it's like full on regular. It almost like going back to that question at the top, like did the community die a little bit? It like almost does feel like now it's just like another corporate job that you can have. Like even if you don't give a shit about cannabis, like if you were somebody who was harvesting strawberries or something, maybe now you go harvest cannabis. Maybe now you go trim cannabis. Like if you were, doing some, I hate to just refer to it as labor, but that is what it's, in the market of things, that's what it's deemed. And there's a price for people's labor. And, cannabis is no different than any of these other agricultural crops in that regard. So it's, well, I think for a lot of people, for the initial at least year, 2, 5, 10, however long, it feels a little bit less laborious because you're like around something you love, hopefully, and enjoy. Like being around the plant is more fun than being around like maybe grapes. If you like don't give a shit about wine and you're like having to wake up early to go harvest those grapes or whatever, it's like, yeah, fuck this shit. I'm going to work. It's not like, oh my God, like I can't wait to go harvest these grapes to make the best wine ever if you really care about it. Or weed, it's like, oh my God, it just smell. I can smell it when I'm pulling up. Let's pull up to the shop and it already reeks. The weird thing is a lot of fucking people can become allergic to cannabis that work in the commercial sector. So be careful of that. That's another like potential dream killer. It's like, oh, I love cannabis so much, but then when you get exposed to too much of it or the wrong terpenes, you get like hives or your eyes get fucking swollen
Yeah,
shut.
there indeed is too much terpenes. You would think there isn't, but there is.
People say, no, Spartan, never too much. They just haven't been to one of those rooms who's fucking killing it with like a really potent strain that like
Grow more better weed and you will experience it, believe me.
it's scary. Some people get like somebody allegedly died from like cannabis dust or something, and there's still a lot of
That's not
stuff.
alleged. That definitely happened.
But did they what like yeah, there's I don't know if it was specifically just the fact that it was cannabis or just like the amount of dust created from the trimming, but essentially
Yeah,
they did
there's
like
that.
and I think any particulate would have done it, but it's again
Yes.
a cannabis related death. So
They
it's
weren't
like
supplied
how
in
can cannabis
mass,
kill
but
you? 1,000 pounds gets dropped on your head. That's like one way cannabis can kill you, dude. It's like 1,000
that
pounds
was
is a
a
1,000 pounds.
that was a big case that was used for like getting the cannabis operations to follow regular uh, OSHA standards. Hey, when you're working with a bunch of particulate, we should have protection for that. We shouldn't be in here with, no mask on, things like that. So that's a pretty widely publicized politically. It's like it's a real political thing. I hear it on the political side. It's quoted all the day, all the time. And it's used quite a bit. So it's super unfortunate that lady lost her life over dust, essentially.
I had an inhalation injury. That shit's serious. But I was gonna say this purple plant, if I touch it with my bare skin at all, I get like a itchy rash for like an hour.
A thing about that, if my understanding is that like for some people, um, like you might not have a problem until like one time it goes too much, or you get too much of an exposure in like this weird way, and then like it doesn't like that sensitization stays. And I'm not like an expert in how allergic reactions develop and that kind of stuff, but has that been your experience?
With the touching the plant and getting the rash or whatever.
Yeah, so like basically like you didn't have this and then
Oh,
you
I
had
don't know.
you had
No,
oh
since it's
oh
been
oh
flowering, like it's been like that. Something in this plant
oh just
makes me
specifically this
itchy.
event.
just that one plant. Yeah.
this one time.
But Matthew, what you're
Just-
saying is not wrong.
Oh no, no. I just didn't understand what he was. I had misunderstood him, I think.
To your point though, like I just heard a case of an almond farmer. His grandpa was an almond farmer, his dad was an almond farmer, and as a baby, because his immune system wasn't set up yet, the almond dust like that got on him because his dad and grandpa came from the farm, and like some of that almond dust shook off onto him. He became like almost deathly allergic to almond dust, despite being
That's
like
amazing.
third generation
Yeah.
almond farmer.
Wow.
And funny thing is, he can fucking eat almonds. It's just the actual almond dust, like the shavings from them. So like it just
Yeah,
shows you
isn't
like
it funny how it's so like it can be very specific.
with weed, I
Well,
know people that they
it's
can't touch
probably-
it because they break out, and if they smoke it, they're fine. So the
I was just
smoking
gonna
of
say
it
it's
is
probably an
different.
inhalation thing. It's like the dust probably gets inhaled rather than digested.
Even if it touches his skin,
Mhm.
like when he
Wow.
goes to the
Wow.
tree shakes,
Wow.
if the dust touches his skin, it like causes crazy reactions. So,
Now I know what hell would be like.
well, the other thing is you can overcome allergies. Like there are people that have come out and like changing your diet and certain things. Like there are people that have gone from like deathly allergic to peanuts to now they can eat a few of them, you know, over time and exposure. And I think that the human body is an incredible thing. And not everybody obviously is going to be able to do that. Some of them will literally just die, like if they eat the wrong nut. But, you know, uh, some people have been able to alter their diet or maybe even microbiome and have that help. But the human body is really interesting. There's still a lot that we don't fully understand with how our genes express, and shit happens like that when we get exposed. But Caveman just entered the room. How's it going, Caveman?
Going good, bud.
Haven't heard from you in a
Kicking ass
while.
over here.
You got a lot of old school
Okay,
strains over
man.
there. I remember a lot of AK-47 and White Widow type crosses. Outdoor
Yes,
grow.
sir. Yeah.
Good
Good
stuff.
evening, boss.
You in the garden tonight?
Yeah, I'm not seeing my camera coming up. All I see is the CAD, but I did have it on.
We got black screen from you right now. I can
Yeah, I'm
I'll
just
spotlight myself just to make
trying
sure
to
if you don't
figure
want
out
to show
what
your
that
face.
is.
You may have
Oh.
to
Oh,
There
here
you
it
are.
comes.
All right, let me turn her around now.
Spotlight me till we get your
How do
garden
I,
going. So at the top left or top right, there's a little button. If you tap the screen
There it
once,
is, yep.
it'll show
Top
up like a little
left,
camera.
yep.
Boom.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to remove my spotlight and I'll put you on. Now we got another garden in the picture. We got two gardens going.
Yeah. Look at them
A couple of my
guys,
S1s here.
Nice.
This here is this is a seed out of the peanut butter breath line.
Go real slow.
All right. And here's one of my volunteers out of my Loomis Kung Fu that just popped up. Try to-
Dude, the volunteers always seem like the most vigorous, right?
They just go crazy. They're fighting for
Yeah.
that life finding a way.
Yeah. Another volunteer. I'm trying to pull out of the way of my clone here.
Oh, yeah, it overtook it.
Little baby.
Yeah. Well, it was here. It was a couple feet tall when I planted this one. And this one here. This is one of those plants that Tao asked me if I was going to repot it in a bigger container. Well, I just put it in the ground.
Damn.
Thing's huge.
Yeah.
That's one
Yeah.
plant.
Yeah. It's huge for this time of year. Matter of fact,
Yeah, man, that's a big. That's gonna be a big canopy, dude.
there's a yardstick.
Hot damn, dude.
How much water is she drinking?
I got my dirt set up pretty good here where I don't water too much. Yeah, I don't have to feed her water, nothing. Well, actually, I did have to water earlier this spring. My dirt was getting pretty hot from being so dry. Nitrogen was running a little too hot, and the bugs started coming to visit me. So I had to give them some water. Well, they're doing good now.
They're looking good.
Got my IPM crops in here.
Do you
Yeah,
have any issues with
cucumbers?
early finish?
Squash?
Does your weather come in? Or
What oh no, these plants been bred to grow in Michigan for decades. They got a handle on this. Yeah.
are you more southern mitten or northern?
I'm right in the center. I'm in Clare.
All right,
just north
so
of Mount Pleasant.
you got a chance more so than some of those Upers or
Mhm.
Northerners.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm in Jackson. I'm just a
yeah. I'm at
couple hours away from you.
43.79.
Oh yeah, you're up there.
That's a good parallel, man. You could grow some dank there. That's like
No, I do.
NorCal, I
Yeah,
think.
come ask around.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm not doubting it. I definitely I've seen only good stuff coming out of your garden. I recognize the voice, and I definitely remember the crosses. Like I was saying, some of the AK-47 is definitely in there. I think there's some
Yeah,
white widow and stuff too.
AK-47 NL5 was my original cross, and then I have one that I had Widow too.
That stuff's killer, man. It's still good to this
I
day. I
lost all my
never
other ones.
don't enjoy it.
I had some other stuff with Maui Wowie in it, but I lost all that. Actually, my Loomis Kung Fu was my oldest seeds. They were probably 10 years older than all my other seeds. And I don't know if it was storage issue or what, but none of my other seeds cracked. And all 6 of my original seeds sprouted. So I started back over with those.
I'm gonna
About
take a
3
quick
years ago.
pause because it is 5:45 here on the West Coast. I'm gonna pass it over to Spartan
Yeah.
Grown for his final thoughts and shout outs before he gets heading over to Michigan Bros Grow Show at 6 o'clock.
Well, hey, first I gotta ask Caveman, are you growing squash or that cucumber? What is that you growing underneath the plants?
I'm growing a lot of stuff. This here is a giant pumpkin. Here's some
Okay,
carrots.
pumpkin.
Here's some sweet alyssum,
Oh, that's
some
sweet. Listen to good.
brassicas, some beans. I got some basil.
Oh, nice.
I got some
I love basil.
loofah gourd going over here.
You got the loofah's nice.
Say hi, Bear. Say hi to the camera.
Oh, he's
Beautiful
cute.
dog. You're doing it right.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Oh, we lost him. We lost the
Oh,
caveman.
yeah, shout out to Caveman. Went back in his cave, man.
Oh
There
wait,
he
he's
is.
popping back in. And he's
I'm
out.
gonna pop out. I'm gonna pop out of
It's
here,
all right.
guys.
It's the perfect time. The
But
door
much
opened.
love to everybody. Yeah, I'll be on the Michigan Bros Grow Show here coming up in like 14 minutes. So I'll see you guys there. 15 minutes. Much love, guys. Keep growing,
Cheers,
everybody.
bro.
Always great having Spartan on. It was great having Caveman. If you are able to get connection, I saw the connection kind of fade in and out, and that's why Taz said go slow. And when he was, it was working out for a good bit. So I didn't want to interject and like, we were there for the video for the seeing all the garden and everything. So I wouldn't want to be like, oh, turn off the video so then we can hear just audio or something. As much as I would enjoy just to chit chat with Caveman. A lot of cool old school strains. Michigander up there in the mitten, killing it, growing fire, cool looking dog, growing lots of different plants. I have endless respect for him and everybody else out there who's doing the same. I think it's very admirable to get plants outside and start growing tons of different stuff. Feed the world, feed yourself, spread that love. How many new exciting projects coming up? I know you've got your main staples so far, the Amy Aces and some of the blueberry lines now that you've got going on. Anything in the works coming up in the future? 2025 maybe?
Working in my brain, but not on the ground yet. But yeah, hopefully shortly things will be starting to get to a situation where I could do what I want to do. But I have a couple hidden out in the outdoors, but they're little and I'm not really like on top of them, but they're alive.
If you have a look at your seed collection, is there anything that you're thinking about in the next, 3, 4, 5, 6 grows, thinking to hunt through to maybe find as a potential candidate to maybe knock up with one of your old staples or new crosses?
There's tons of them that I'm looking at, but that's the problem. There's too many. But I want to go through the I want to do I want to do mad big runs of all the ones that I have already and find the ones that I want from them. Like the Violet Beauregard,
Find
and Stacy,
the unicorns in there, just some
Yeah,
crazy
I
pheno
got
or
so
like
many.
the best of the best.
Yeah, exactly. I have so many of them seeds, and then there's like at least 10 packs that I have on deck, and then I have an on deck circle, then I have the on deck circle, and it's just overwhelming. So I'm gonna have to make a decision at some point. So
it's always hard for me to say no when people offer me free seeds. But a lot of the times, unless I really, really want to grow that cross, or like somebody hands it to me in person, I'll take it in person. But if they're like online and they're gonna have to like pay to ship it to me, and I'm like, I already know I've got, you know, 30 other things lined up. My next 30 grows are filled in. I have like 5 years of grows out of my like I had like a 10-year list of things that I wanted to grow. And I've worked my way like through at least half of it. And now I've still got a shit ton of stuff that's in my curador, and it's like it's not getting any better. It's not getting any newer. I know seeds can last a long time, but I'd rather get them in the first, 5, 10 years.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I've been thinking about too. But I have faith that I'm going to. All it would take is like I just need to get some place where it's legal, and I could be like, yeah, you could do a lot of seeds at one time if you have the room. You could do thousands. So
Yeah, you don't have to make like huge plants either. Like you could really get like a 1 gallon pheno hunt with just a shit ton of if you have a little pole barn set up, kind of Eagle was talking like if you ever went to Oklahoma, no plant count and just like
right,
let it rip.
you could do all your seeds if that was the case. Or I could, yeah. So
It'd be interesting. I think that's how ideally we'd all like to hunt through. But even I think there's some fun in the challenge of having a limited hunt. I go from 15 down to the best two based on a few different parameters, and some are cut earlier than others.
yeah,
But
and if you get the right seed packs, you'll find something good definitely in 10, 15 seeds for sure.
I think I'm on the subcool track. If you can't find something good in the first five, I don't know if it's worth growing again. That's been my standard at least. There's really good quality stuff out there now. Like I know we knocked a little bit earlier on how often the strain is relabeled, mislabeled, changed names, not the actual cut, but there are also like golden retrievers out there. Donnie Burger is one of them. It's like well-bred, staple, consistent. Gorilla Glue 4, GG4 original glue. If you try it anywhere, like I would say 99 out of 100 people are gonna say it's good shit. Donnie Burger, I'd say 90 out of 100 are gonna say good shit, just because I think it's too potent for some. It's too strong of a high. The people that haven't enjoyed it were like, oh, it put me on the couch and I couldn't do shit. But if that's its biggest complaint, same with Gorilla Glue. Some people are like, oh, it glued me to the couch. But if that's the biggest complaint, then I think it's got a lot of good things going for it. But there's a lot of stuff that's really inconsistent, like S1s, where it's like 1 out of every 10 is good, maybe. And it might look like what's on the pack. And um, like I've taken Velvet Punch to F3, and I think it's more stable at F3 than it was at F1. There was a little bit more variance in some things, but the F1 was very good. There's a reason I took it to F2. The F2s were very good as well.
Yeah,
And I got less and less variance, and like it's taught me a lot. Like I learned like the whole, Punnett square shit is real. Like I thought I was getting 1 in 15. It turns out it's like exactly 1 in 16 in the genetics. But I was getting that like zigzag sawtooth pheno in my F2s. And that was just like a cool learning experience. And it's fun to breed it out. I need to start. The reason I was asking you, Ty, was I'm thinking about what I want to cross Velvet Punch to next, or potentially if I find a good keeper pheno of Spartan's Project V, then working with that potentially and seeing what else I'd like to cross it to. I have like some of my stuff that got away seeds that I had a cut that I wish I would have kept. I'm going to go back and grow some of those. So it's always interesting when if you grow regulars or even if you don't, you can reverse. Shout out to I think it was Art Man. I think I saw you in the chat earlier, Art Man. Cheers to you. Asked me about how to turn one plant into another plant, like a female into a male. And I was like, silver thiosulfate. And here's a link. 2020 Mendocino has a little kid on like Etsy or something. And it's a little 2-part AB. You mix it, spray it, and follow their instructions. Shout out to 2020 Mendocino. Great breeder and very good share of knowledge on lots of different shows. But yeah, that product works for a lot of people. And it's one way to do it. So if you only want to grow females, you can still make your own seed and start doing S1s or fem crosses, which I actually think are a lot better than some people give credit to. Some of the old school people, even like Sub. I love Sub, but he said fuck fems. Like I'll never do fems, and I'm kind of in that boat from my own personal breeding standpoint. Like I don't provide fems on my website. I only provide regulars. Velvet Punch is regular seed, F1, F2, F3. Um, F2s were testers, F3s are the only thing I've made available. But I don't have any plans. Even if people like were like, "Hey Jack, I want fem," Bella Punch. I just, one, haven't gotten that request very often, but two, I don't really want to like cater to a market that I already feel like is ultra saturated. Like I think where the majority of the seed market is, a lot of it's just feminized, whatever, Purple Punch S1 or whatever, like big clone or big cut, jealousy or runs or Skittles or OG Kush or Girl Scout, whatever. A lot of it's just like replicas of strains that people want to try, and there's nothing wrong with that. SeedPerson1 was smoking on Gelato 41 from Atlas Seed, I think you said, right? Seed.
Sorry, I was trying to get to the mute.
Oh, it's all
Yeah,
good.
it's from Atlas Seeds. Yeah. But here's the thing is I've never tried it like legit. So I got the pack as a freebie, I think, and I was very pleasantly surprised with the results,
Hey, that's the thing. Like, as long as you enjoy it, really, who cares at the end of the day? It might not be the Gelato 41 that I'm thinking of, or like technically Gelato 41 is a cut, it's not a seed. So they're Gelato 41 S1s potentially, or maybe back crosses or something like that.
I don't know what the lineage is on it,
It might
honestly.
have just it a lot of the time, and that's the thing. They a lot of the time don't tell you. It'll just say Gelato 41, and then you buy the seed, and then if it's good, then fuck it, enjoy it. Another person who's come on here, Dog Doctor, has like grown runts from a few seed companies or whatever. And it's not the cut that I know, but he's found some really cool. The one that he described sounded kind of like the pink runts that I had, which is more like kind of like not kind of like it smelled exactly like passion fruit, which to me is fairly unique in cannabis. There's some citrusy stuff out there, but to like smell literally exactly like a passion fruit, like specifically to almost like there's a local place where uh, my wife and I will get a meal and they have passion fruit on it and it smelled exactly like it. And I was like, wow, it rings that bell, that exact olfactory, they say is the strongest memory thing. Like, so if you smell someone's perfume or, mom or dad or grandma's cologne or perfume or whatever it is, can like bring you back, or the smell of like grandma's cookies kind of thing that has very, very strong association with memory.
Yeah, it was perhaps the first sensation that life had, right? A little chemical doohickey hitting a receptor and making a signal happen. So,
It's a simple process, but it's effective for a lot of different things. We can identify if food is poisonous or, you know, gone bad, or if it's
or really
safe to eat.
tasty, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like, how often are you driving down the road or like walking through a mall or something and you smell like popcorn or like a, burger or something that like has a very strong volatile aroma that comes off of it that is appetizing, It's I think fairs do well on that. They have like a lot of strong smelling, sweet, salty, whatever, quick hot items that you can get. San Diego has a fair going on right now. It's been extremely busy. The weather has been extremely nice. I won't complain. I understand that when I moved here, there's a shit ton of people and there's a lot of traffic. So 'tis life. Leave early if you want to get places on time if you're going through there. But with that said, we're at the 5:58 hour here. We've got about three of us, and it gives us all about a minute or so to give our final thoughts and shout outs. And I'll pass it first to our special guest this evening, SeedPerson1. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure having you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always good to see you guys, and thank you for everything you do for the community. I appreciate, every week you're here, and there's so many people that are impacted, like, people all over the world. So, yeah, grow love to everybody in chat, and I'm SeedPerson1 on Instagram or SeedPerson1 at gmail.com.
Cheers to you, and definitely check out the Let's Be Buds episode. SeedPerson1 was just on recently. I'm going to check that out myself later. And it's great having you as always, and thankful for all of the people out there as well. Just it is amazing the positive impact. Like when we get to hear personally, like and see gardens. Like your garden looks amazing. Like if that was in my house right now, I'd be very happy with it. So that's a good standard for me. And I'm like, he's got some killer plants and killer buds. So I'm always happy to see people in our audience are able to achieve what I would be very happy to achieve for myself. And that's a great standard. And Seed Person, always great having you. Next up, we've got Matthew Gates.
Yeah, I really enjoyed what we talked about today. A lot of really cool subjects that I got to comment on. If you're interested in knowing more, you can check me out at sentinel.com, especially if you have professional inquiries that you need handled. You can also check out a bunch of free information, and that if you're interested, like Rocinante had in the chat, questions about like IPM theory and that kind of thing. I have a book coming out, hopefully this year. We'll see. But about what I call the Everstorm concept. And you can also check out my budworm moth video when it finally comes out, perhaps end of next month, who knows? And it will be analytical in that way. And so if you're interested in learning more about how to check out pests, how to understand how to deal with them, check it out when it comes out. All right, and Zenthonol is my YouTube channel too, the same one in my chat. All right.
Great having you as always, and pleasure to have you back. Always really appreciate your feedback on not just the IPM, but on everything. I think you offer us a great perspective, so we're very thankful and grateful to have you as well. So last and certainly not least of our panelists this evening is my buddy, the American one.
Jack, as always, thanks for hosting, and shout out to SeedPerson and Caveman. And was there someone else that showed their garden? I don't know, but shout out to everyone who came on, showed their garden. Shout out to everyone in chat. I am the
Looney
American
Tunes
one.
fan.
Oh yeah, shout out to Brandon Looney Tunes, Tasmanian Devil, Sylvester. We love them all, man. Yeah, man. So, and Yosemite Sam too, dude. He's cool. But yeah, shout out to everyone in chat, and shout out to the special people that have hooked me up over the past couple of years, and even more recently. I love you all. Thank you. And yeah, everyone have a great week. We'll catch you on the rebound. Peace out.
Peace and love for sure. We got lots of love from Smart Poker and Crispy Wannabe. They've shouted out some of the links to like the Patreons, my own website, 50strains.com. If you want to link, if you're currently live with us, that's where you can get a copy of my book. There's less than 30 left of the 50 Strains of Green. I am trying as hard as I can to finish up 50 Strains of Purple because my goal is to finish that before I've sold out of all of these so that when I print purple, I can print a few more. I'm going to do like a 2.5 because shout out to all my listeners who, like I asked, if you find things that need revisions or edits or little updates, then I want to make it better in the future. Just like a college textbook, every few years they have, different editions. And I used to think that was a big scam to get more money out of the college kids. I'm not doing like required reading. So like you can have the first edition and it's still just fine. It's not like gonna change your life significantly. But yeah, with all that said, I'm at Jack Greenstock, just like you can see here on my logo on Instagram. Jack_Greenstock is my account on X, where I'll be posting this tomorrow. So x.com, formerly known as Twitter. And yeah, you can message me there. Or if you're not on any of the social media, jackgreenstock47@gmail.com, or go through my website, 50strains.com. There's a contact page there and all my products. 24% off for 2024. Cheers, everybody. It's great hanging with you all every week. And I really look forward to seeing you next week. Peace and love.